It began with a sound, not thunder, though the sky was black with the promise of a storm. No, this sound was sharper than that, like the tearing of fabric, but magnified until it swallows everything and everyone else. I was sitting on the porch, wrapped in an old blanket, watching the wind whip through the treetops in a little bit of a frenzy. The air was heavy and thick with that metallic scent that precedes rain. Then it came, a flash of blinding light that seared on the edge of the horizon, accompanied by the impact of something fierce that would rattle my windows. And for a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. The forest across the field, usually so alive with chirping and rustling, fell silent. Not even the wind seemed to dare to blow. I stood up, my pulse thundering through my ears. Something had fallen from the sky. I didn't see it land, but I felt it. The tremors rippled up through the earth, and I could feel them in my bones. At first, I thought it might be a lightning strike or something close by, but that wasn't it. And there wasn't the smell of like a burnt tree or smoke or fire. It was just unnaturally quiet. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. My curiosity won me over. I grabbed a flashlight from my kitchen and I stepped off the porch onto the tall grass. My boots, I could feel them in the damp soil. As I crossed the field towards the tree line, the flashlight beams wavered as my hand trembled. I caught a glimpse of gnarled branches with glistening leaves. That's where I entered the tree line. The air changed. It was colder here, almost suffocating. My breath came in shallow puffs, visible even though it wasn't cold enough for that, or at least it shouldn't have been cold enough for that. My flashlight had picked up the path of broken branches and scorched undergrowth, leading deeper into the forest. Whatever had fallen had carved a jagged trail through the trees, leaving behind this rancid stench of charred wood and something else, something I couldn't quite place. I hesitated. My heart began to hammer in my chest. Something about this still felt wrong, like the woods themselves were holding their breath. But I pressed on. The trail led to a small clearing, the earth churned up as if someone had scooped it out. The center of it was a crater, still smoking faintly. My flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows over the pit. The beam caught something gleaming at the bottom, something metallic, but warped. Its surface pulsed faintly, as if it were alive. I froze. My mind struggled to make sense of what I was seeing. It wasn't debris, it wasn't a rock, it was. The light from my flashlight dimmed further, and then it went out entirely, plunging me into darkness. That's when I heard it, a wet, slithering sound coming from the crater. I staggered back, clutching for the unseen flashlight, like my lifeline. My heart pounded in my chest, loud enough to drown out everything, everything but that sound. That wet, squishy noise grew louder, closer, as though something was crawling its way out of the pit. I didn't want to look, but some awful, primal part of me couldn't resist. My eyes adjusted slowly to the dim light, the smoldering crater, and then I saw it. It moved. At first, it was nothing more than a shifting mass, Its edges rippled as if those of waves rising from the sea, but then it coalesced into a shape. Something flickered in it, this glimpse of something coming to be familiar. A hand, a face, stretching and melting, becoming something more, something else. I couldn't fully register what I was seeing, but it was changing. It was as if it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. In the air, it felt wrong, heavy, buzzing at a low frequency. This hum, it made my teeth ache. I stumbled back, my palm scraped against a rough bark that had fallen from a tree. I grabbed it like a weapon, though I doubt it would have worked or even mattered. And then the thing shifted again, rising to a new height. It just stretched endlessly, its form wrapping and twisting like smoke caught in a vortex. It leaned towards me, and though it did not have a true face, I felt it watching, studying, and then it moved. I didn't think. I scrambled to my feet and I ran, my legs burning as I tore through the undergrowth. The branches started to whip in my face and my arms. I I did not dare stop. Behind me, I could hear it. Something impossibly fast crashing through the woods, a wet, shapeless mass splattering against the trees and reforming in an instant. Its movement was so quick it whistled through the wind. The cold air, it tore at my lungs. It's like I'd breathed in shards of glass. And then I saw it, the porch light of my house, flickering in the distance. I summoned the last of my strength and I sprinted towards it, leaping over the fence and throwing myself onto the porch. I went inside the door and slammed it behind me, collapsed on the floor, shaking, and for a long moment, the only sound was my own breath, and then silence. I waited, my ears and eyes straining for any sight or sound, anything moving, but nothing. I should have felt relief, but something was gnawing at the edge of my mind slowly. I pushed myself up and I peered out the window. The woods, they were dark and empty, as if nothing had happened, but then I saw it. This tall, disfigured shadow moving around my house. It began to howl like the wind, a light sound that would pick up and begin to blow. My windows began rumbling and shaking. I closed the blinds and backed away, and as quickly as the sound came, it faded to this dull, distant whisper calling to me, calling for me, fading, and again silence. I waited for it to come again, for it to rattle, for it to roar. I dare not look out the window again, so I just waited, and nothing. The night went on for days, it felt, but nothing, uneventful. I stayed awake, watching, looking, listening, until the sun rose. And that's when I had a faint sense of peace. Nothing more ever came of that night, or my visitor. I don't know what it was. I had never seen it again, and sometimes I wonder if I even saw it at all. Was it real? I allow myself to forget, but even when I do, I am reminded every time I hear the faint whisper of the wind blow.